And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess here, back with another footy insight, player chat. And ladies and gentlemen, I have to say this. I have found a fantastic footy insight just before the AFLW season gets started. I was had the extreme pleasure of connecting with an AFLW player who I think is definitely worth a chat. Let's introduce her, Miss Eilish Sheerin from the Richmond Tigers. Eilish, great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me on board, Johnny. Looking forward to chatting all things AFLW with you.
Well, it is fantastic. I cannot wait. I look at the days. They cannot go fast enough for AFLW to get started. But before we get into the footy and chat about your journey and a few of the fun little stories that I would love to discuss, let's find out just the littlest bit about you personally. So, could you tell us a little bit about yourself outside of the game of football?
Yes, so I was a mature age draft, so I done a fair bit before picking up AFL at the ripe old age of 26. I'm originally from Sydney, born and bred on the Northern Beaches. And I played sport all my life. And yeah, before kind of playing AFL, I used to play soccer quite competitively during my junior years, teens, and then into my 20s. But I've had a couple of knee injuries along the way and studied and traveled the world. So outside of footy, I do business development in migration law, and I've just started to buy a small business, a bakery and a cafe. So they're kind of my passion projects outside of footy. But I'm definitely, a mad sports lover. So sport and AFLW take up a lot of my headspace. So, my passions and my loves and my hobbies. So yeah, it's a good balance, but yeah, definitely sport mad.
There's nothing wrong with that. I am a sports mad person myself. In fact, I have many even Australians that chuckle at me because as soon as the footy season is over, I start checking into cricket. And I don't have the USA cricket team is not big, so I tend to kind of be a semi-Aussie during the winter months over here. The summer months, they are keeping track of the
That's okay. We're
cricket
happy to
for
have you
sure. So
on the bandwagon too. So
well, it's hard not to go for them because they've been playing so well in every single format. No matter it seems like what tournament they're in, they're always one of the better sides. So let's jump into it. Being from Sydney in New South Wales, not exactly footy country, or at least not the footy that most of us listening to this channel call footy, not NRL. We are talking about Aussie rules. What's your earliest memory when it comes to AFL footy?
So I got invited, or not invited. I think when I was in primary school, we had like a gala day where you could play any sport, and Auskick was one of those sports. And I went and played a day of Auskick. And apart from that one day, I never really came across AFL until I was probably in my late teens, and I would go and watch the Sydney Swans play in at the SCG in Sydney,
Mhm.
purely because we were members of the kind of stadium complex, and a lot of my friends went and watched. So it was more for the social element of it, drinking beers with my mates and actually watching the AFL. It's such an entertaining game, really. So yeah, you kind of get sucked into it. And then AFLW became more and more prominent, especially with obviously the introduction of the AFLW, 8 years ago. And I started to see that on TV a little bit. And then a lot of my friends just socially in Sydney started to play AFL. So I actually began playing purely, out of, social factors to hang out with my mates. Play sport on the weekend, and then what was a big cultural thing there is that we'd go to the pub afterwards and you'd debrief, and it was more about the social component of it. So I was about 26 at that stage, and I loved it. I loved that, but I then also really enjoyed playing the game. So I thought, this is a wonderful opportunity for me to maybe take it a little bit more seriously.
Well,
And that's how it all started, I guess. Yeah.
and I bet you're sitting back now thinking about that, going, man, was that a great decision for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I always wanted to play professional sport when I was a little bit younger. Um, we didn't have as much visibility of women in professional sport really being like it being a lucrative career path, I guess. So
Mhm,
there was when I was playing soccer, there was definitely girls who were playing for the Matildas, but they weren't on the big pay packets that they were on now, and they weren't there wasn't any women's EPL or anything like that.
mhm.
So it wasn't really seen as a lucrative career path for me as I was coming out of school. So it was something that got parked, and I'm so lucky that I was in a position where I did have an opportunity to dive into professional sport and be able to support myself later in my life. So yeah, I'm very appreciative for that because I'm sure there's women who have come before me who didn't have that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely for sure. And like I said, you have excelled everything that I watch. Cannot wait. We'll talk about that just a little bit later on in the podcast. I'll definitely for sure. So I got to joke. Like I said, you've only been playing it for a short amount of time. So I'm interested on this. Is what is your favorite part about playing the sport of football?
I just love competing. And I also love that, AFL it's such a complex sport that, there's always something that you can be improving on or building on. Like it really is, it's kind of all encompassing. You need to be at your physical peak in terms of, your endurance and your strength and your agility and your speed and things like that. But then also there's such a high skill component to it as, you know, being able to kick and handball and all of those elements. And then there's obviously the game and understanding the game and the structure and the footy IQ. So the complexity it's probably what like draws you and holds you. And I have a bit of a high performance mindset and I have a bit of perfectionist tendencies. So that desire to just always be improving and growing is something that I love, but it's also just so much fun. It really is. It's such a fun sport. To play and yeah that to go out and compete with other people with that similar kind of mindset just like holds you and yeah drives you I guess.
Hmm, fantastic. Absolutely love it for sure. I'll ask this. You told me off mic, but I had to chuckle a little bit. I have to ask, being a New South Wales girl, what club is it that you support in the AFL when you were younger? And do you still support them, or have you changed allegiances now with your ties to a certain club in the AFLW?
Yeah, I am. Was a Sydney Swans fan growing up. Well, when I discovered AFL, I was a huge Adam Goodes fan. I just thought he just went about it in a phenomenal way, and he was just so talented and all of the values that he stood for. So yeah, I still am a Swanee supporter. They've got a bit of, a little bit of my heart carved out there. Obviously on the Richmond Football Club bandwagon now, especially in the AFLW. But it's yeah. I think everyone's allowed a couple of teams, right? You're allowed
Hmm.
your childhood favorite, and you're allowed to have new allegiances, and it's such a beautiful part of AFL. You'll have go to a game and you'll have families, and they'll be supporting different teams, and they'll be going, at each other during the game, and then they'll walk outside and they'll like hug or embrace, and it's just such a nice kind of I don't know aspect of it, I guess.
Well, I absolutely love it. In fact, if I remember correctly, I go through it. This is the first year that I believe Richmond and Sydney will play each other in AFLW. So I bet you're looking forward to actually stepping on the field with the red and white jersey going against you.
I I absolutely am. I have been, patiently waiting for this for a number of seasons, waiting for the draw to come out every year. We are playing them in Coffs Harbour. So for those of your listeners who aren't familiar with Australian geography, Coffs Harbour is not Sydney. It's about 6 hours north.
Mhm.
So I'm a little bit upset about that because I would love nothing more than to play the Swans at at the SCG or at Marrickville, which is in the heart of Sydney, and have all my friends and family, especially my grandmother, she's quite old, come and watch. But I'll miss out on that opportunity. But it's still, I'm looking forward to, yeah, definitely. I know a few of the girls in the teams too. So it's always a little bit of a grudge match when you go against a team that, it could have taken you in a draft or could have drafted you and they didn't, they chose not to. So you always have a little bit more of a point to prove. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to that game.
Well, it'll be fun. I'll say this personally as a Swan supporter. If there was any way for you to come back and play for the Swans, I'd absolutely love it because I love your game. But again, I think you have found yourself a beautiful home at Richmond. I think you have fit spectacularly there. So whatever you end up doing will be great. I have to say that. So, which actually is a great transition for me because, as you said, you have a very unique story. 26 years old when you finally step onto an AFL list. And as I said, you have excelled quite well, quite a lot since that first day. So, could you give us just a little bit about this journey? How, as a 26-year-old, you got to the Richmond Footy Club?
So, as I touched on, I really started playing it purely for the social elements of it. And then, the love of the game and that drive like kind of pulled me in. I was pretty lucky I was playing in Sydney kind of Premier League, like the top league of women's AFL there, for the Newtown Breakaways. We weren't having a particularly good season. We lost every single game that year. Some of them by, much more than 100 points. So it was a very character building season. I'll say that. And we were playing some games, and the then coach of the GWS Giants came down and was scouting some, local women's football, and he invited me out to train with GWS. And yeah, I just loved that kind of high performance environment. And I think that opportunity, yeah, to be able to potentially play AFLW. And I didn't get drafted that year. I was a little bit too green. I probably only played 10 games by the time the draft rolled around, and I was a terrible kick. I still am probably not the best kick, but I was quite terrible back then. So I missed out on the draft that year, and then I went back and played another season in Sydney, and yeah, I was really very focused on trying to be drafted. And unfortunately, on the eve of being drafted, I tore my ACL in a game. So I missed out that year. And I think that getting so close and missing out just, it kind of, lit the fire in the belly, I guess. So I went away and I trained, rehabbed, trained, worked on all of those things that I saw as deficiencies in my game. And I came back and yeah, I guess I kind of exploded back onto the scene. I was playing an invitational game for GWS, they like a talent ID game, GWS and the Swans, because the Swans were about to come into the AFLW that year. So they were doing some additional, talent searching. And I played a game, and GWS, the coach of GWS, was like, we've seen enough. We want to draft you. If that's something that, yeah, like we'd love to draft you. And that was huge. It was everything that I kind of worked towards for those few years. I think I was 29 at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went away, and you might touch on this in terms of the CD player in my car. I went away after that game and I was ecstatic. It was everything that I'd kind of worked towards. And I went down to do some recovery in Sydney Harbour. We were playing at North Sydney Oval, and I was getting changed into my swimmers in the front seat of my car, and with the music pumping, I was very, very pumped up, and I bumped the car player of the media player, and it went from playing your Apple, your Spotify on your iPhone to playing the CD in the car. And I recently bought this car from a dealer, secondhand car, a couple of months before, about 6 months prior, and didn't even realize there was CDs still in cars. And I was like, what's going on? And it just started blaring the Richmond theme song out of the car, which if you're in, maybe if you're in Victoria would be something that might happen. But the fact that you had a theme song on a CD in a used car in New South Wales is just completely unheard of. It was like, what is going on? Who listens to this stuff? So yeah, it was just in that moment, I was like, oh, this is a little bit random. Didn't really think too much of it. And I went home that night, and within a couple of hours of that, I had a girl who I'd trained on with previously, who had just been traded to the Richmond Tigers reach out to me and say, Richmond, the list manager at Richmond's really interested in talking to you. Is it okay if I pass on your number? And I was like, this is the universe telling me something.
Mhm.
Like they're telling me something and I've got to listen to it. So yeah, I ended up interviewing with Richmond, and they were very keen to take me in the draft. And how it worked back then, it's moved now. It's a state-based draft. So if you nominate for Victoria, only the teams based in Victoria can pick you up. If you nominate
Mhm.
for New South Wales, only the teams in New South Wales can pick you up. So I'd obviously been planning on nominating for New South Wales and being picked up by GWS Giants. And they were said, if you nominate for Victoria, we would like to draft you. And that's quite a risky thing because, if
Mhm.
they turned around and they hadn't drafted me, no other clubs in Victoria were looking at me at that stage. So I would have missed out on another year of AFLW because GWS wouldn't have been able to pick me up. So yeah, I think I had, a lot of trust in their club and in the team there. So I thought, why not? And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
No, that's fantastic. I remember you telling that story on the Coat Hanger podcast. And I remember absolutely being in stitches because I thought as you said, it was so like the universe telling you something because here
Yeah.
you are in a used car and the one song blaring from a CD is the
Yeah.
Richmond theme song
I
and
should go and
Richmond
get a
and
picture show you.
and the
I'll get
Richmond
up.
and Richmond ends up being the club that you end up getting
Oh,
to, and you have paid them back in spades for sure. But I thought that story was hilarious. That was my next question was that
so
story. And then
yeah,
do you ever look back at it and just go, I mean, it was too perfect a situation.
it absolutely was. I think in that, I think you can't. I don't know. You can't not listen to. I don't know. I feel like I believe in energy flow, and sometimes like yeah, it does. The universe just tells you stuff, and you just kind of got
Mhm.
to listen, right? You got to like stop and be present and listen to what's going on around you. And it was absolutely the right move for me in terms of me like personally moving into state and having that different kind of personal challenge as well. And my footy excelled as a consequence of that. And I think probably as an individual, I've excelled in different ways. It's challenged me and yeah, and made me grow in different ways. So I'm very appreciative of that. I don't have that car anymore. I've actually sold it this year. And I've got a new car, but the CD lives in the new car.
Cannot
Yeah,
get
so
rid of it. You
talisman or
cannot.
something like that. Hopefully that wasn't the car wasn't my good luck charm.
Well, I have to ask this. Question without notice. How many times have you told that story to your teammates, and what was the first reaction when you told it to any of your teammates, if you
I
have?
don't know if I have told it to my teammates. I'm sure they've heard it on, like, I told it at the AFLW awards when I got pulled up on stage for something. So I think a lot of people have heard, yeah, the kind of anecdotal synopsis version.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I haven't really like sat down and told everyone about it. Yeah, I've showed the CD to a few people because they were like, a couple of people were like, that's such bullshit. I don't believe you. And I'm like, I'll send you a photo of the CD. It's just on Richmond. I'll send you a photo, Donnie, later, so you know.
I cannot wait. I will probably tag it. I will tag it in the post when this comes up. I cannot wait. But like I said, I loved that story. I thought it was absolutely magnificent. So we'll get off the story. We'll go back to you as a footballer. And I love this question because I've got a theme so far in most of the AFLW and some of the state league players that I have asked when it comes to the female side. So I'll ask you this. What is your biggest accomplishment so far as a footballer?
Oh, my biggest accomplishment as a footballer. It's a hard one, isn't it? I think um, as a team, being for me, I've probably come from an area where I've been a little bit more like individualistic in terms of my focus. So my biggest accomplishment has been like becoming a lot more team orientated. And being able to step away from me as like an individual athlete and being more focused on like how do I excel, but also help other people around me. So that's probably, my personal accomplishment. I've obviously got like external uh, things that I've achieved that I am very proud of. But if I think I reflect on my career, it's probably more of those kind of like values and personal growth areas that's more my things that I'm probably going to be most proud of in terms of accomplishments.
It's very interesting because in all of the discussions that I've had, 99.5% of the women athletes that I've done, they always do a team accomplishment. It's a we won a premiership or the time we made the finals, everything like that. So I didn't want to lead you. I wanted to see how
Yeah.
you would respond on that. But the fact
Yeah.
that you then went to a team accomplishment is fantastic. It just like I said, it just stays in that humble mindset that many of the female
Yeah.
athletes that I've talked with the AFLW have. So I love that. So I want to have a
I'm
little
hoping,
fun.
I'm also hoping the biggest accomplishments are yet to come. You know, I'd love nothing more for than be, a contributor in Richmond winning their first final.
Mhm.
Because my first season we made it to finals for the first time, but that's, I think more so my hope and goal for the team this year would be to win a final. And if not, I'd love to. My career goal is to play in a grand final. That's what I would really love to be able to do. Obviously win it, but I think that being able to be there and have that experience of like playing off for the pinnacle prize that we're all, tussling day in, day out for, that's where what I'd like to achieve as part of my career.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely for sure. And the other thing you got to look at too is if you wanted to go to give your plaudits. And again, I'm not trying to pump you up, but I mean the fact that you play on the same team with some really darn good players and have finished runner up in in the best and fairest for Richmond twice. Wow. I mean, that's incredible for some of the athletes that and some of the amazing players that are on your team for sure. So I want to go into the locker room just a little this bit because I love that the footy team is kind of this fun thing that I have here and that I've for many. So do you have a best mate at the club?
Do I have a best mate? I don't really have a best mate. I'm a little bit like I'm one of the older players. We like to call ourselves like the seniors. So there's not many of us left who are over 30. But I think what comes with that is that you kind of float in and float out. So I'm pretty lucky this year. I've been a little bit injured, but in terms of that, I've had an opportunity to connect with like girls that I don't necessarily always connect with. So I wouldn't be able to say this is my absolute best mate, but I'm like I get to float in and float out and be friends, with a lot of people, which I kind of like as well. But in terms of sitting down and having a good chat with someone, Kate Dempsey is always great. She sees the world in a good way, and she's very funny. I used to live with Libby Graham for a while, so like Libby and I can sit down and have a good chinwag over a few things and. Yeah, I like that football clubs are those kind of places where you just bring people from all different walks of life into a space. So you have such a different experience with so many people, and that's the beauty of it as well. You don't need to have just one best mate who you connect with. You've kind of got 30 best mates in a way.
I've heard that before. Sometimes you're all a big sisterhood. It's always
Yeah, it kind of is.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's jump into it. I always have it fun because each team room is a little bit different. Each team has a different dynamic between them. So take me inside the Richmond AFLW rooms. Kind of what's the group like? Are you happy go lucky? Are you very business like? I mean, is it a lot of fun, or is it kind of just depend on what's going on and how the training or game day is?
I think it's so much variety. Like, as I said, there's 30 different people from 30 different walks of life who prepare and, they focus in different ways. So there's a lot of people who are very like up and about, gregarious, especially on game day, like to let loose. And there's a lot of other people, myself included, that are a little bit more like quiet, pensive, more like focused, so you have that people prepare and get the most out of themselves in very different ways. So we have all varieties, in terms of that. It's there's a lot of like I guess we say taking the piss out of each other, joking around. There's a lot of that. There's good energy around the group. But when we need to focus and settle down, it's also a very serious place. So, you need that variety, right? So you need
Mhm.
to make sure it's not too serious and people are there and having fun because, if they are having fun, they're usually performing. But you also need to be able to, we're a professional outfit and it's a professional sport and you need to be able to perform and that requires focus. So we definitely have both when needed.
Definitely, for sure. I'm gonna go here only because again, I absolutely love the AFLW. I think there's so many fantastic players that I think many fans sometimes that don't watch the AFLW, I feel like they're missing out. And one of them is your teammate, and that is Monique Conti. I mean,
Mm.
legitimately, every time I watch a Richmond, there are two players that I have to watch when I watch a Richmond Tigers game. That is Mon Conti, and that is you, because I think you two are two of the most entertaining players to watch on the Richmond Tigers. So I got to
I
ask,
throw Ellie McKenzie in there. She's great to watch
I
too. And
just
KB,
want her to get
you know,
healthy. I just want
KB
her
is
to get
also an
healthy.
absolute star too. But yeah, look, there's all of our players bring their own kind of
Hmm.
strength or spark. But Mons, she's a once in a generation kind of player. She
Hmm.
just like my one of my in personal goals on my individual development plan is to just tackle her once. It's impossible to tackle. She's just so fast, so agile. Like she's on just a completely different level, right? So yeah, it's great to be able to play with her. I'm
Hmm.
very thankful she's on my team, not playing against her. But she's also such a huge team player, and she's just puts so much back into the team and trying to build people around her and develop people around her. She's not just focused on Mon Conti, which is
Hmm.
great, right? Like to have a star and someone who's so successful be very team orientated and really prioritize their teammates and have a lot of love and care for their teammates. It's really nice. Yeah, it says a lot about her as a person, but yeah, she's incredible, right? Like
Hmm.
you watch her play, and yeah, I can't words don't really kind of put it into
Well,
justify doing.
I think the funniest part about it is as I did that and I never did actually get out the question that I had down. The question was, have you ever just found yourself stopping and just watching her? Because I can't tell you how many times I see her pick up the footy and I'm like, there's no way she's getting out of this. And not even having to do look like she's trying that hard. She wiggles her way or
Yeah.
smoothly steps her way out of a contest and off she goes. And it's just like it is mesmerizing sometimes
Yeah.
watching her play.
She's very strong as well, Mon is. She works incredibly hard. And the ultimate professional, works very hard, obviously balances her professional basketball career in the
Hmm.
off season. And I think, that works in her advantage. There's a lot of transferable skills and cross training that, and probably, I'm sure, from her anecdotes, a lot of people said, you had to pick one or the other, and she's said, this is what works for me, and boy does it work for her, right? So
Hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot of transferable skills that have made her into such a good footballer that she's taken from basketball. But she also just works really hard. She knows her body. She knows when to push herself, when to pull back, because that, like, longevity is another thing, right? Like she's, I think, pretty consistently played every game that she's been available, that's been there to play. Yeah, she's just a once in a generation player, and get a front row seat to watch the Mon Conti show every
You,
week.
you have one of the best seats you have one of the best seats in the house, I have to say for sure. So, all right, well, we'll go away from the love fest that is Taman Conti. We'll take that away a little bit and just I'll ask this as you said, is that now with the AFLW is you're of even a little bit more professional athletes to the point where you're at the point where you're pretty much full-time professional athletes. So could you tell me just a little bit about your typical day currently nowadays? Are you still working part-time or are you full on only thinking footy during footy season?
I am probably one of the fewer players now that still works outside of football, and that's not based on necessity.
Hmm.
It's probably because I'm a little bit more mature, and I had a career before I played football.
Hmm.
So I quite enjoy working. I work for my family's business, which also makes it a little bit easier in terms of flexibility, but also there's other nuances to it, I guess. It's not as easy to step away, and so I do enjoy that side of it. It's something that I've developed up over a large period of time, and I know, so it's a little bit different for me in that sense. So on a normal day, there'll be different training days and non-training days. We now train in the daytime. This is the first season that Richmond does predominantly all of its training in the daytime, which has been great from a professionalism perspective. So on a training day, we will either start early in the morning at 8:30, or we'll start at around like 11. So if that's the case, I will get up and I usually do some sort of mindfulness. I'm big on meditation and breath work. That's usually part of my kind of morning routine. Hydrating and having a bit of breakfast and going for a walk and getting a coffee would probably be what I'm up to. If I'm a later start at 11, I might have a meeting in that morning, or just catch up on some emailing or something like that, just to make sure things are rolling on in my job. And then I'll go into the club and we will do like a power hour, which is kind of an hour for us to focus on whatever we need to do, medical needs, maybe some extra touch, some vision, things like that. It's not too strenuous, but it's like your time to improve yourself and improve your game. And then we'll have like our meeting. We'll have an overview of the training that we're about to do in the day, and then we'll go out. We'll train on the field, and then we'll come in and we'll usually do a gym session, or depending if it's our longer day, we'll have some food. And yeah, then we'll do a gym rotation. We might do a peak performance rotation, which is like our mental headspace around performing and like dealing with field or like connection in the team. It's all around that kind of mindset stuff, like high performance mindset. And then we might do a few other things in terms of like extra vision. Ferg will run some, additional education around our game style, or developing our football IQ. And then there might be a few other bits and bobs in there around, like we do extra like gymnastics or different kind of things depending on what we need for the group or where we are in the preseason or the season. So that's probably what it looks like. And then we're very lucky we also get given food. We do recovery, so cold, hot recovery after at the end of the day after gym, and then we get fed at the club. The food's pretty good, so you definitely stick around for that.
That's fantastic. It's always nice of them. Well, that's awesome to hear that they are taking such good care of these athletes that are doing so much for the club on that one. So, this next question, I'm interested to hear what you say on this because, as you said, you picked it up a little bit later. But is there a player of the past that you used to watch footy on that you kind of modeled your game after, or are you just one of those you just kind of went out and played?
I just went out and played. Yeah, I couldn't. Well, I think the idea is if you're modeling a game after someone else, you're really playing to your strengths, right? So, for me, my strengths are the reason that I'm playing AFLW at my age. So to model my game off someone else, no, it's not really
Hmm.
what I. Yeah, I don't have the capacity to do that out there. I just play on my natural instincts. And also, I guess AFLW is very new in the sense that we haven't had, a huge, um, you know, roll call of people who have come before us in terms of being able to have those people that you look up to and inspire you to play. So there are male counterparts that a lot of the girls would have grown up watching, but I think we're very lucky in the sense that we're probably part of that, the talismans of AFLW that I'm hoping girls will look up to and be like, I wanted to play, or I model my game off X, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, hopefully in the future young girls come through and they're inspired to play like Mon Conti or Katie Brennan or Daisy Pearce, and that's starting to happen now, but I'm sure it'll be a lot more prevalent in the future.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun over these next 10 years, seeing some of these young girls that are coming in. And women's footy since 2017 just absolutely exploded throughout the country. In fact, I think it's growing at a point where I think the AFL is starting to go, oh, wow, because
Yeah,
there's so many numbers coming in. I mean, you look at it, I think this next draft for the women's side is a fully national draft. It is
it
not
is.
state
Yeah,
based. And I,
it
I
is.
cannot wait for it because I think it's going to be fantastic for the entire league to see girls from Western Australia, South Australia, Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland can go anywhere and play professional footy. I cannot wait. I think it's going to be
Yeah,
great for the league, not only to spread the talent out, but just to show how much women's footy has grown in all of these places. I cannot wait for it. It is going to
Yeah,
be
absolutely.
an
I think this
absolute
will
blast.
be a bit of a breakout season, or I'm, hoping. I'm sure it'll be one of many. It'll just continue to build like it has been. But
Mhm.
I think the steps that they've taken towards professionalism off the back of the last CBA, and one of them being, training the days or girls being able to support themselves, and not have, secondary or part-time jobs in season, that will really see a huge improvement in terms of the quality, and hopefully the visibility of AFLW, and we'll just see that grow and grow and grow as all of this new talent comes through.
Definitely, because I keep track. I have a friend of mine who runs one of the rookie recruiting things, and he's telling me this could be one of the best drafts when it comes to talent coming in this AFLW season. So this national draft year is kind of absolutely perfectly timed. So let's go back to you for a little bit, and I want to see the smile on your face as I ask this question. You stepped into the league 2 years ago and have literally lit it up. You have done so well. It's been so much fun. What do you think is the reason you've done so well stepping in as a mature age player and literally looking like it is completely natural? You look fantastic on the field. Every time I watch you, you amaze me with your talent.
Oh, I don't. It's a hard question, that one. I think like uh we're probably, the league is in its infancy in the sense that you have a lot of people coming from a lot of other sports who maybe necessarily haven't always gone through the pathway. So it's still very like athletically driven, in terms of the way that it's played. Like it's a high pressure game. There's a bit more like run and carry and things like that, surge football. And that's obviously still going to be very important. But as the game develops, and as those skill sets improve, it'll just become one of the nuances of it. But in terms of it being a highly athletic, high pressure, high power game, they're all of this my strengths really. So I'm very lucky I can just go out and play that way. And I've also been lucky enough to play for a team that has identified that and been able to foster it or put me in positions where I can just focus and excel on those strengths. So yeah, I've probably been very lucky in that sense that I've been guided quite well, and I've had great teammates around me who are happy for me to just focus on the things that I've been able to do well and accommodate that, I guess. So yeah, it's a hard question because it's a bit of a special sauce. I'm not really 100% sure, but I'm very lucky in the fact that I'm just able to go out there and focus on the things that I do and I do well.
Well, humble brag a little bit. I think you've been fantastic. I mean, not too many times do you step in as a rookie and an overage rookie, and you are two-time All-Australian. I mean, that's nothing to sniff at in 2 seasons. So I have to say that has been fantastic. So we'll get to it. As I sit here right now, we are only days away from the AFLW season getting started. And like I said, I will say it again. It's like Christmas Day. I cannot wait. How are the Tigers looking, and how do you think the team's going to go this year?
We're looking good. It's an interesting time of year because there's such a long off season and there's so much work that you can do in that space, right? So you also don't really have a lot of visibility. We have now after a few pracky matches, but a lot of visibility of what other clubs have been doing. So, you definitely see your team improving, but how is that respective, or compared to the other teams in the competition? So
Mhm.
yeah, there's been huge improvements in our program over the off season and into pre-season. So I think we're tracking really well. We weren't particularly happy with how we performed last year, and we were a little bit unlucky. We had a lot of injuries
Mhm.
that challenged us at key parts of the season. But we wanted to play finals off the back of our maiden finals campaign the year before, and we just missed out on that. So for us, the goal is to get back into that space. We want to be there. We want to be competing. We want to play finals. We want to win finals. So for us, it's, yeah, we're very connected. We're very focused, and all kind of driven towards that goal. But yeah, you don't really know until you kind of start playing games and everyone is performing. I'm sure everyone's happy and performing well in preseason. What do they say? They say you can lose the season in preseason, but you can't win it in preseason. So
Mhm.
I think, there's a lot of teams that are feeling pretty good and up and about at this time of year. And it's then just, have you done the work, or have you set up the structures and systems to be able to have that play out through the season. It's not particularly long, but it's pretty intense. So hopefully, yeah, all
You
that
got
hard work.
Yeah, gotta come out on fire and start banking in wins because it
Mm,
goes super, super quick. And to go off that, the fact that this year you get another game, but
mm,
to add a degree of difficulty, you got to get that other game in 10 rounds to the point where
yeah.
you're going to have one round where you play two games in a week. Are you looking forward to that, to a lot of footy in a short amount of time, or is there a little bit of because you're going to get two games in one round?
Yeah, I think, well, we love playing games. We love, like we train to play. We're not here to just train all of the time. So the opportunity to play in front of fans and yeah, put all of that hard work into, you know, out there on show for everyone is very exciting, and we all want to do as players. So yes, I love the opportunity to play games, love the opportunity to play more games. The condensed fixture will be interesting, especially as a slightly more mature player. It'll be interesting to see how teams handle that, but I'm sure there's a lot of work that's been, I know from our team and our high performance team have done a lot of work in terms of preparing for that, and I'm sure that that's similar across all teams. So I think we'll be set up as best we can to excel despite that additional challenge. But it will be interesting because it's obviously not been done before. So I'm sure you won't be able to get it all right this year. I'm sure there'll be a lot of learnings that come out of it. So yeah, it's all obviously focused on making sure we do a lot of recovery and we don't overload. And yeah, I love the challenge, right? We just roll with it and see what happens.
Yep, it's going to be very interesting to see how teams handle that extra. It will definitely test the
Mm,
team's list depth for sure this season. Looking
yeah.
forward to it. So, my next question on this one is more because the more I watch women's footy, the more I honestly believe that I think the way the women's game is structured with the AFLW, I think it is much more intimate, much more connected to the fans. So, I want to
Mm,
ask this best fan interaction, and I'm going to open this up to not just like the little kid that wants the autograph or the young girl that you see kicking the footy with your jersey number on the back. I almost want to have a little bit of fun too. Have you ever had any fun sledges from the outer that caught your ear that you wanted to listen to? So best fan interaction that you can think of.
I'm sure I have been sledged. Um, I probably just get sledged by my own mates, you know that. No, I did have a young girl who came up to me at our last game at the end of the year at Collingwood, and there's a bit of a trend, people asking for boots and getting
Hmm.
signed boots.
Notice that.
Yeah, and I unfortunately have one very good pair of boots, and I was like, "I'm sorry, I can't give them to you." She asked for my boots, and I was like, "I can't give these ones to you. They're my only pair." But if you like reach out to me, like I'll happily sort something out for you. So, um, I she reached out, but unfortunately had gone back to Sydney for about 3 months. So I wasn't able to catch up with her. So it was about 6 months later, and I was like, "Oh, look, like I promised you a pair of boots. Like if you come into the club." I'll happily get a signed pair out to you. And so she came in, she brought the whole family. They traveled for about an hour and a half on the train. There was all of us siblings and her mum, and yeah, it was really sweet. So um, I hope she's enjoying the boots. But yeah, that's probably one of more of the sweeter ones. In terms of sledges that I've received, I'm usually giving the sledges, not receiving them.
I love
I'm a
it.
sledge fan.
Do you got any go-to sledges? Sorry for the question without
Oh,
notice. Okay, best
oh
sledge you think
no,
you've thrown at
nothing
somebody?
that I'm going to repeat on the podcast. They're usually whispered in the
I
ears.
love it. Absolutely love it. Don't mind if you a chatty defender. Absolutely love it for sure. So let's have a little fun for just a second. I'm gonna everybody talks about, especially over here, that they can do the general manager or the list manager spot. So I always have a little fun with some of the players. I'm gonna take you off the field for just the tiniest bit, and I'm gonna put you up in the list manager spot for one day. All
Yeah,
17 clubs in the AFLW are free. You can snatch one player from any of the other clubs to join Richmond to get you over that hump, to get you into finals, and maybe get you that first AFLW finals win. Who's that one player you bring over to the yellow and black and why?
that is such a hard question because there are so many great players. Look, if I didn't have few of our girls on our team, I'd probably steal them. I'd definitely steal Mon for sure. Um,
Well, you already
but
have her, so.
I know. I'm already very lucky. Look, there's so many players that I've got a lot of respect for across the competition that I would love to play with. And I'd love to play against. I'd love to play against Katie Brennan because I just think she's an absolute competitor and she'd just drive you to be so great. So, um, who would I steal? I can't like emphatically answer that. You know, I would have loved to have in my time played with Daisy Pearce,
Mhm.
who's now, you know, retired, but is now the coach of West Coast.
Nice.
Just from,
Mhm.
you know, my understanding, she's her knowledge and of the game and her ability to like command that space and to help her teammates on the field is pretty legendary. So yeah, it would have been amazing to play with her. And obviously, Erin Phillips is like one of the greatest players of all time. So would have been similar to Mon, like a bit of a front row show to seeing that all play out. Um, I also like the way Chelsea Randall goes about it. I've played against her and she's just an absolutely fierce competitor. So there are a lot of the players that I, you know, revere and respect. But it'd probably be, you know, just to help out Richmond Football Club, it'd have to be one of like these hot juniors coming through because they'd have to, you know, you'd have them for the next 10 years if you treated them right. So,
Mhm.
oh, Montana Ham's looking pretty good. Yeah, she's ready for a bit of a breakout season too. So, you know, I wouldn't mind stealing her from Sydney.
Yeah,
Um, and
she's gonna be a good one if she can stay healthy. It's a lot like Ellie McKenzie. It's like you
yeah,
know that they're good. They're the number one overall pick. You just want them to stay healthy. Because
yeah,
I think Ellie McKenzie, if she can stay healthy, could show the league why she's why she
yeah,
was the top girl in her draft. I just want her
yeah,
to get healthy because if she
yeah.
does, she's gonna be a ripper.
Got phenomenal skills. Like
Hmm.
seriously, she's another one that you can't just stop and help, you know, can't stop and help stopping and watching when you're meant to be doing three other things on the field. They're just, yeah, enigmatic, right? So I'm pretty lucky. Do you know, a lot of the players I'd steal are on my team. So
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you one that I think is cut a little bit from the same cloth as you that I cannot wait to watch her because I've watched her in the Sanford W for 2 seasons and she's on the Port Adelaide list and that's Sinead Goody on Port
yeah,
Adelaide. She was there one of their pre she was one of their pre-signing girls.
yeah,
She's my tip because of Lauren Young tearing her ACL. She's my
yeah,
tip for the
rising
rookie for
star.
the rising star because
Yeah,
she's absolutely electric. There's not
yeah,
much to her. She's not a big unit, but she goes for everything. She's absolutely fearless. She's as quick as a hiccup. And I cannot wait for some of the people that I've been telling. I said, wait till this girl gets the AFL.
yeah.
Wait till she gets there
I've
because
heard. So
she's going to be fun. She is going
I'm
to be
sure
an absolute
there'll just
superstar.
be influx, and the juniors in our team who have come through, Izzy Bacon,
Hmm.
Mackenzie Ford, you know, they've like they come into this elite environment and they're just already so mature and
Ready
developed.
for it.
It's really,
Hmm.
yeah, it's impressive. Like yeah, they can slot straight in, which is amazing, right? And does wonders for the depth of clubs. So
Hmm.
that's something that I'm definitely excited to seeing. You know, how does all of this young talent just explode onto the scene? So yeah, I'll keep my eyes peeled for her. I'll probably have a lockdown roll on her. Come what
She'll. I
I'm
think she'll be.
five. So looking forward to it.
I think she'll be playing wing back flanker, so you may not see her. She may be on the opposite side of the ground if you play Port Adelaide this year. I just like I said, I'm not sure how Lauren Arnell's going to use her. She could go through the midfield. I don't think she'll be a forward. I think her kicking ability, I think, would be really good on the wing or even the back flanker position, just for explosion out of the back line. Again, personally, but I don't know. Again, I don't know how Lauren Arnell's going to use her. But like I said, I watched her at Woodville West Torrens the last 2 seasons. She's absolutely fantastic. Cannot wait to see her for sure. I think Port Adelaide is one of those teams I think in the next 5 years could be scary good with the talent they've got there just from South Australia that they've
This
picked
is
up.
why we need the national draft, right? Because we have to.
Well,
The
I
other one's
they're
Queensland. Queensland has just a huge amount of talent, right? So it's, yeah, I think it's a really important progression of the game to just make sure, and it'll just see, that the quality and the closeness of matches improve drastically. So
definitely.
yeah, it's a huge step for the competition.
Well, let's have some fun. The next part of my questions I do is that I'm going to give you a category and I want you to tell me the first teammate at the Tigers that comes to mind here. May throw a couple under the bus, but we'll do it gently. Okay. So first one, team mom. Who's the team mom at the Tigers?
Team mum. Probably me. Surely it'd be me. I have mum vibes. Yeah, I'm going me. Or
Okay.
Gab Seymour's pretty mum. Yeah, she's very responsible.
Alrighty. Who's the funniest? Who's got the best jokes?
Oh, there's a few. So I'd love Caitlin Cox. She's an interesting human. She's very funny. But Greg is also Grace Egan. Greg
Mhm.
is hilarious, and Kate Dempsey is witty personified. So they're my three. Sorry, meant to be answering one,
You're
but
you're fine. You're fine. If you got a couple, that's fine too. Who's the toughest? Who's the unit you want right by your side?
oh, toughest. That's hard. KB's. She's a massive competitor too. Yeah, you'd want her on your team. Vinci's also Vinci. Who else? Laura McLennan. We call her Smash. I would not want to be hit by her.
Mhm. Love it. All right. Social butterfly. Who's the person everybody talks to?
Grace Egan.
All right. Most emotional. Who's the one that the tears get going really quickly?
Oh, that's a good one. Most emotional. I'm very emotional. I love a good cry, so I'd be up there. I think G is as well. Caitlin Greiser, she's got like just the sweetest heart, so I'd probably put her in there too. Yeah, she's very empathetic.
Okay. This is the fun one. Corky. Who's the most unique unit at the Tigers?
Unique, well, Coxie for sure. Everyone's got their own little idiosyncrasies, you know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
yeah, they're so unique and they're all different ways. Coxie's just an interesting human. She's just, yeah, built different, I guess, but she's hilarious. Like, love her for it.
Okie dokie. Best cook. Is there anybody that's got that culinary gene?
Oh, heaps. I've had Sarah Hosking cook me a few meals before, and she's pretty handy. She's very good, cooks an excellent steak, very like modern Australian, but excellent cook. And her sister Jess is also very good on desserts. Who else is a good cook? I feel like I'm missing someone, but yeah, there'd be a few in there, but
Mhm.
they're probably the two that I'm more familiar with.
And I catch myself, I was going through my things. There's a few that I've added over the last few weeks. So I'm going to add a couple more. They may be a little bit of out of nowhere. First, who has the worst white line fever?
KB, for sure. She will literally choke you out in like a wrestling exercise, like a training wrestling, like you two of you have to wrestle and run to something. She will like, you'll go to the death.
All
Terrible.
bets are off.
You're in that
All bets are
headspace. Just
off.
a mad competitor.
I
Yeah.
love it. Absolutely love it. Oh, who's the one that takes the longest to get ready? Who's the one that has to have their hair just right before they leave?
Oh, there'd be a few. You'd have to throw Mon in there. She's pretty, yeah, she doesn't like flyaways in the hair. Who else? Charlie Ryan loves a tan. Sarah Hosking always looks polished. There's a few like not no one's too over the top though. No one's
Hmm.
too over the top. But yeah, I think we like to look good. If look good, feel good, we say. So
Yep.
um,
Completely agree with that.
play good, play good. So I think everyone kind of takes pride in their appearance a little bit.
All right. And this one kind of goes off this a little bit. Fashionably late. Who's the one just showing up on time to meetings?
It's me. Totally.
Love the
It's me.
honesty. Love the
Yeah,
honesty.
yeah.
And then the other one that I forgot, I totally forgot, and I always love this because and you've said several of them is I think the Australian nickname for players is fantastic. We're trying up here, we're just not as good as it. So best nickname at the Tigers.
Oh, we're actually having this conversation yesterday in the hot tub about nicknames. There are some excellent ones. Everyone has like a few. I like my favorites. Beck Miller, I call her Spaggy, so spaghetti,
Hmm.
because she's got the longest arms, so spaggy arms, spaghetti arms. Spaggy. She also gets rigatoni, which is a type of spaghetti.
Hmm.
So rigatoni because she's such a big rig. Or she wants to be a big rig. There are a couple of good ones. Stella Reid gets Chopper, so like Chopper Reid, which is a movie, old
Hmm.
movie. Chopper, she gets Celery. Stellarina. Who else? There's so many. Greg's good. Grace Egan, GR Egan EG Greg. It just suits her so well. Who else? Yeah, we like Smash because she literally smashes into everyone. Laura McLennan, Elmac. Who else have we got? There's just everyone kind of has a nickname except for Chevy wants, so Maddie Shevlin wants a nickname that's not based on her name. So she wants something that's not Chevy.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, she's like, put the feelers out. Everyone have a think. Yeah, and I've got a few. I've got Ed Sheeran. So Ed, I've got Lish, Muscles, Flex, because I like to have a little flex in the mirror during gym. So I get Chev. Yeah. So everyone's got a few. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on one. We have a player up here that's name is Ruben, and I'm trying to get the guys to call him Sanga for a Reuben
Yeah,
sandwich. But
yeah,
I just
yeah.
I can't get it to stick right now, but we'll have to
Yeah.
see. But that one, I thought that one was pretty good. I don't know.
I
Again,
like that too. Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was good, but we'll have to see for jumping on that one. So, as I told many people on the podcast, I have not been to Australia. It is on my bucket list. I'm gonna get
Mm,
over there. I'm gonna see a game. If it keeps going the way it's going, I'm probably gonna try to come over for the women's season because I think I'd have a lot more fun going to a
mm,
women's game. So I got to ask this of you, Eilish. When you do go to games, I want to put your fan hat on for just a little bit. I need a little
mm,
bit of information here. So when you go to the footy, what's your
mm.
go-to food when you go to the footy?
Ooh, I love a pie.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I'm all for the pies. What else have we got? I think like it depends what they're serving. They're pretty luxe now. These a lot of the like top stadiums now has like very gourmet options. So um depends what I'm feeling like. But yeah, a nice old meat pie is usually where I'm at. That's always been a bit of a favorite of mine.
Hot chips has taken the lead. I think the last six or seven
Yeah,
until you were hot
that's an
chips.
easy
So
one, right?
that is that
Yeah.
is that is very much a very popular one
I'll
for
usually
sure.
seagull some of my friends' chips, so I'll have the pie and I'll probably get half the chips too.
That's awesome. All right. And then again, as a fan, one of the best experiences is the seat. I want to get the best possible seat. So when you go to a game, where is your ideal place to sit to watch the footy?
It would have to be like middle. I think AFL is great because you can be down in especially for women's games, you're in and amongst it if you're on the sideline. But if you're a little bit higher up, it's such a strategic and beautiful game to watch because everyone's so spread out, right? So you can
Mhm.
kind of see it all from a different perspective. So if I go to a men's game, if you go to the G, very lucky my housemate gets me up onto level 2 of the MCC, so you can really see every aspect of the game from a strategic perspective. And if I'm probably at a women's game, I'd probably like to be there, but then down probably behind the goals of the team that I'm cheering for.
Mhm.
Then you get yeah, then they're kicking buckets towards you hopefully, and you get a bit more fan interaction down there. So can I move around?
Some people that can't sit down, they get too nervous. But the most
Yeah,
popular for so far is the wing second level. So about where you were saying on the
yeah,
wing, so then you can
yeah,
see
yeah.
everything. But I've had a few that say the cheer, if you want the full on footy
Cheers,
experience, the
God.
cheer squad is
Yeah,
definitely worth it
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
So
Sure, you'd hear a few heckles in there. I've been down
for
with the
sure.
down near the cheer squad for some of the men's Richmond's games, and yeah, every man and their dogs like the Richmond AF, the coach, just providing all of their insights into what they think everyone
Mhm.
should be doing. So it's pretty interesting to hear that, and
Yep.
everyone's quite informed because they're so passionate about it. But yeah, it's a very funny experience.
It's a very, I can only imagine. Like I said, I hope very, very soon. So, and last but not least, the last question that I asked, like I said, I'm building a little bit of an encyclopedia here for this. Favorite game of footy you have ever seen? Men's, women's, doesn't matter. Live on the telly, doesn't matter. Favorite game of footy you have
Favorite game of
ever
footy I've
seen?
seen? God, they're all just so. Oh, I was pretty lucky. I went to a Swans game probably 10 years ago, and they were down by, like, I would say, in going into the last quarter, they were down by 5 or 6 or 7 goals. And,
Mhm.
we almost left the stadium because we were like, there's no way they're winning this. And they came back and they kicked all, like, I think Buddy kicked 3 of the last 4 or 5 goals. And it was just like such a phenomenal fight back. But we're so lucky. AFL, like, every round I feel like there's a game like that. You can never really count a team off, and that's what makes it so exciting and so enjoyable to watch. So I wouldn't be able to pinpoint one specific game because
Oh no. Okay, so we just had a little bit of a computer die, and I want to be sure to end the episode by telling Eilish, thank you again so much for hopping on the podcast. I know she's got to get going. So, Eilish, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. Best of luck against West Coast in round one, and hopefully we can talk again very, very soon. Thank you so much.
perfect. Thanks so much for having me on, Donny.
Uh,
And yeah, looking forward to a really exciting AFLW season. So thanks for your support and go Tigers.
Go Tigers. We'll talk to you later. Again, thank you
Bye.
so much for hopping on. That'll be the end of another episode of Donnie's Disposals. We'll be back with more footy coverage very, very